Welcome, everyone, to the Holstein House podcast. I'm the West Virginia woman, Robin, of RobinHolstein.com and Holstein House, where my guests get a great night's sleep at a fair rate plus breakfast. This is a podcast that looks at society and culture issues affecting families in West Virginia and the United States, from food preparation and storage, gardening, home repairs, current events, and more. We'll go around the table and back in 60 minutes or less. So let's hang out and talk a while. Good morning, and good morning, Phil, the Philippine nomad. How are you, Philippine nomad? I am Robin. It is Friday, September the 15th, 2023, and this is episode 98 of the Holstein House broadcast live, answering questions on hosting a B&B from your home, fall and winter pantry food preparations, storage questions, and more. Today, it's unscripted Friday live, unscripted, and we just talk about whatever, really. I do have a few things lined up just in case, but I thought we'd talk a little bit about maintaining my 2005 Chevy Colorado, the transformation of the utility cart, the 4x8 thing. So I've seen it listed as a trailer. I've seen it listed as a cart. I don't know. 4x8 is not that big, but it's big enough for what I want to do. Talk a little bit about how good help is hard to find, even when you pay for it. And just general things we need to consider when you're running a B&B from your home or from your small homestead, or heck, even, I guess, a big homestead if you want to. And some things you might consider as you get ready for winter. You know, we want to change things around. We need to have different supplies for different emergencies. So maybe a little bit about that. The doghouse roof is completed, so the next steps and what's going on over there. So I'm glad to see everybody here this morning. We have Mike for sure here on the YouTube. We don't have anybody over on Rumble yet, but is this cable bumping that? It looks like it is. Maybe not. Rumble. Don't see anybody over there yet. Rumble is the dumbest thing. You go with when you're using StreamYard, and you put in the server ID and stuff you need to put in to stream live over there, and you can't connect. And it's a StreamYard issue in the big picture. You can't connect Rumble with StreamYard the same way you do YouTube and Facebook. So with YouTube and Facebook, excuse me, I got some allergy stuff in my nose is itching. So with YouTube and Facebook, you set it up once, one and done, and you every now and again you have to refresh the connection, but you don't have to go back and put in the configuration every time. With Rumble, every time I schedule a live, number one, I can't do it more than 24 hours in advance. And number two, I have to go in and get all those configuration keys again every time and update it every time. So it's a frustration to use Rumble through StreamYard. There's a different one I saw some folks using, and I can't remember the name of it. I need to go back and look at their YouTube, because they mention it a couple times to see if it has better options or better maybe better rates or something than StreamYard. But I kind of think StreamYard's probably the Mac daddy of the live streaming platforms. So how is your Friday going so far, you guys? I still feel like this is, I know it's not, but it still feels like it must be hung on a button or something. Oh, it's got a little twist in it down here. That's why it's pulling the way it is. And then, of course, bless their hearts, my podcast folks have to wait till I upload the file, the audio file. I don't know if I could. I've never tried streaming straight from my phone to record on for Fountain and the podcasts or not. So the Philippine nomad is feeling and doing unbelievably. I am so glad you're having a good weekend. It is kind of chilly here this morning. I keep the house, this time of the year, I keep the house air conditioning thermostat on 74. Now, I know that sounds kind of low, but the problem is that it's cooler outside. And to bring that humidity down in the house, I kind of have to drop it a little bit inside too. But I don't let it get up too high anyway. And it is like 6 degrees cooler outside than it is in the house. So I have some doors and windows open and the screens in them, and just letting that fresh air flow through. I don't do a lot of coffee talk on my, because I usually use just store-bought coffee. I have some local brewed coffee. Beans, I keep that for my guests until it starts getting, once it's been opened about a year, the beans kind of get weak. But I'm drinking some instant International Foods cappuccino flavored kind of instant coffee stuff. It's got caffeine out the hind end, and it's kicking me all over the place this morning. But that's in my my family is unconventionally diverse cup, and what you see is feet, human feet, duck feet, dog feet, cat feet, and chicken feet on there. Available on my Etsy, linked below. Philippine Nomad says, is the Colorado a full-size truck or an SUV? Well, that is interesting. The Chevrolet Colorado is a are you familiar with the S10? The Chevy S10. So back in the day, it would go S10 Colorado full size. So it would have been a mid-size truck. And it had several optional packages. I didn't get manual transmission because I couldn't. Where I bought it, the place I bought it from has been out of business about 10 years now. But when I bought it, you couldn't get it the way I wanted with a manual transmission. So I had to get an automatic transmission. But it's got the air, it's got the heat and air, the AM/FM, with a CD DVD player, and they had a couple options on the size. And I got the crew cab, which is the full back seat. That because the boys were home and their dad was over 6 foot tall, and I knew the boys were going to be at least that. And you needed the full size, the crew cab in the back to seat full grown boys, full grown teenage boys. So I got that. So it was the, she was a pearl at the time. And, we took it and got, I should say him because I'm driving it. I should call it a him. We went to the DMV to get our license plates, and I got a personalized plate, and it's her truck. And I got teased because of the way I spelled it, but I spelled it purposely so that it would fit. And instead of being one big jammed word, people trying to figure it out, there was a space in between the words. So you saw her and you saw her truck. So I got teased about that. But we also found out that they had that the personalized plate, his truck was available. And Mr. Holstein was driving I want to say his was a 2003. And how this rolled out, I had switched jobs, gotten a decent promotion. He had moved into a different job, and it was, the prices were decent enough and we could do it. So within a couple of years, we both had brand new trucks. And I mean, my Colorado, man, 3 miles on it, 3 miles. So, that mileage was just driving it from, inside the plant where it was made onto the truck, off the truck, onto the shop, at the dealership. It wasn't, it didn't get any highway riding. But we ended up both putting money back and got us the spray and bed liner professionally done and tonneau covers. But he ended up trading his truck. It's been about 4 years ago now. It was before the Rona. He ended up trading it for a Ram truck. It used to be Dodge Ram. We still slip up and call it a Dodge Ram, but it's just Ram now. And it was it had been a corporate truck, and it had all kinds of bells and whistles. Well, he still has it, all kinds of bells and whistles. I still have mine. I love mine. It is the only brand spanking new vehicle I've ever purchased and paid completely for. And it's got some issues. It's got some flaky wiring now. It's got some rust in the bed that we couldn't see because of the spray-on liner. And but I use it. I mean, he's had to replace the engine in it and do basic stuff to it, stuff that it would have cost a small fortune to have done if we had to pay. And women, I'm telling you, any ladies that trip across this show and you're still listening now, I'm telling you, if you're a single woman, you find you a man that can fix stuff. Pardon my French, because I don't usually speak like this. Screw those techs that work from home and do coding and stuff. Yeah, you got big money, but it's going to take big money to do everything you want. Get you a man that can fix stuff. Hey Carla, get you a man that can fix your plumbing, your HVAC, your automobile. Your automobiles are going to get to where you can't fix them before too long, if not already, because they're just so highly computer gadgety. But the guy that can sit and code can't change your oil. And right now in my little Fiat, my little red Fiat, if I take it to the Jiffy Lube or the Valvoline, we used to have Jiffy Lubes, now they're all Valvolines. There's a different one. Is it a Pennzoil? I think it's a Pennzoil. It might not be Pennzoil, but it's not Jiffy Lube. Anyway, if I take it to the Valvoline for an oil change, in my little teeny tiny, just barely bigger than a smart car, little red Fiat, it takes $100 to change the oil in it. That baby doesn't even have 4 quarts in it. The filter and the oil and the labor, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Mike the Philippine Nomad, please meet Carla Hoskins. Carla, this is Mike the Philippine Nomad. He's one of my longtime YouTube members or followers, I guess, because it's not a membership. Mine's not a membership. Carla's a longtime friend too. Her husband, her sister-in-law. Good people. So the truck, what's going on with the truck? For the battery cable clamps, I guess that's what you call them, the clamps that go on the post. They've never ever fit right on that truck. And we've replaced them a couple times, and there's something about the design of that truck that those cables will bump and wiggle, and there's something about the electronics in it, and it builds up a lot of corrosion even when he puts stuff on there for corrosion. So I'm constantly dealing with a battery issue. And even, I mean, it was only a couple years old, and it just crapped out on me taking my younger son to school. It was raining. And so I run him to school. Otherwise, he would have walked. And it just crapped out on me on the side of the road. And I gave him the umbrella. I said, you take the umbrella to school. I can walk back home. It's like, in front of town here, quarter of a mile. and went back, and it was the battery. The battery was dead. It was only a 2-year-old battery. But we've always had trouble with batteries in the truck. But I went out to get in it the other day. It's not and it doesn't connect good, so it doesn't charge good. And you can try to tighten it down, and it doesn't want to work right. So I went out this morning, and I toyed with. I thought, this is the kind of stuff you need to video and post, because I don't have to do this stuff. I've got a husband who can do this stuff, but I need to know how to do this stuff, and so do other ladies. And we shouldn't be afraid to do some of these basic things. But I thought about it, and I'm like, nah, I won't do it. So I went out and put the little charger on the battery, and I looked at the gauge, and it kind of bounced from, if the little needle is pointing down. Of course, you read the gauge thing in the window anyway, but so the little needle was down when it was off, and when I connected it kind of bounced just a little over halfway. But the way it reads to me is like lower is up, and then hundreds in the middle. And I guess it has to do with whether it's a 12-volt or a 9-volt battery or whatever, that kind of stuff. And he already had that part set. That part I don't understand. I try, and there's a block somewhere in my brain when it comes to electricity. But so the needle bounced, and then all at once it dropped back. Well, I heard a little spark, and I thought, oh, one of the clamps has come loose. So I fooled with the positive clamp, and it didn't change it. And I fooled with the negative. Well, the negative terminal is the word I was looking for. Terminal is the one that has always given us fits, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And so I put it back on there, and it kind of just a little teeny little, almost like static electric spark, not a big pop or anything, but it's a little staticky sound. And the needle bounced back up, and I stood here and watched it for 30 seconds or so. And it stayed right there, and I thought, well, that's fine. So I messaged him because he's at work, and I said, this is what I did. He said the cables may be dirty again or a little loose because it wouldn't start. It's probably, the battery's probably okay. I said, well, I'm gonna just leave it there for a couple hours and see. And he said that won't hurt anything anyway. So I'll go out and check when I get finished here and see how it is. But it's always had a battery issue. I don't know if it's a design flaw or just our luck. I don't want to get into that. So Mike says, for those of you on the podcast, Mike says, and I don't usually say this either, damn, if your lady can change her Fiat tires and you can't, you best do a Michael Jackson and beat it, and don't let the door hit you in the in the rear end, or where the good Lord splits you, where a lot of don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. I haven't changed the tire. In my life I have changed a tire. What I found, I had to, you guys know the Chevy Chase. Oh darn it! Where is it? Where he's the dad and he's got this huge family. What's that dumb movie? And they have that in this Christmas Vacation is the big one that did real well. What's the name of those people? Darn, I can't think of it. Mike said, Mike Loco Estoy is just chilling in the monsoon heat over in the metropolis, Manila. You be the killer from Manila? Or is it the killer in Manila? I can't remember. You'd probably be from, though, because since you're from down there, and Muhammad Ali was just over there. But anyway, whatever character that was that Chevy Chase played. That is the main character in those movies that I can't remember. Oh, I almost said it. Anyway, he drove this big Buick Roadmaster estate wagon with the stickers that made it look like it was wood paneled. I owned one of those. Buick Roadmaster estate wagon. I loved that car. I paid for it. It was paid off when I traded it in, but well, I sold it. But I sold it to one of those auction places, and they got rid of it. But yeah, it was it was awesome. It got pretty good gas mileage for a honking huge car that size. And Griswold, Griswold, Clark Griswold, and that's the character. So it was huge. I loved it, but it had electric everything. It had electric seats and it had leather seats. Leather seats. They were electric. It had the AM FM. It had a CB in it, not factory, but it had one because we found where they had mounted it. It was huge stereo. I mean, I loved that thing. And I drove it until there were holes in the wheel wells that came into the back end, the bed of that station wagon. Oh man. And I needed it at one point. When I was married to my second husband, we had custody of all of our children, full custody of all of our children. So there were four boys. Four boys. And so my boys ended up sitting in the very back, and his boys were in the middle because his boys were very young, 3 and 2 years old, and they were off the chart behavioral issues. They were really, really difficult children, and I believe they grew up to be difficult adults because they're in their 20s now. But yeah, that was I loved that car. Flat tire. So how I got onto the Buick estate wagon. We were talking about tires, and I said I had changed one, and I had a flat on the side of the road, and I called. I had gotten all but one lug nut off, and I had the car jacked up to get the flat tire off to try to change it out, and one lug nut would not come off, and they weren't safeties. They didn't have the hubcaps had a key. I had to use a key for the hubcaps, but those wheels, those lug nuts they didn't have anything special going on. But one of them I couldn't break. I couldn't get it loose, and I ended up calling my dad because I was trying to get to work, and he was impressed that I was able to get the car up enough to, on the jack to get it where I could get to the tire and get it moved. But he ended up, because my dad has been a welder. He's been a welder all his life. He didn't always work. That wasn't always the Thrilla in Manila. That's it. That was the fight, the Thrilla in Manila. But Dad didn't always work as a welder, but he was always a welder. He was a certified welder out of high school. And he brought a torch and he heated the lug nut and he cut that puppy off there and finished changing a tire. Now, this is many years ago, so he was still able to do that. Finished changing the tire for me. And I took, because I took good care of that car, and I took it back. I took the tire and the lug nut that he cut off back to the place that had rotated my tires. And it was a local guy here, and I jumped all in his face. I mean, not in his face. I mean, I wasn't like spitting on him or anything, but I jumped all over him. I said, don't ever. I said, Freddie, I always bring my vehicles in here to you, and you know that. And I'm, don't ever have your people put my tires on with the impact wrench again. Don't do it, because I'm by myself and I'm on the side of the road and I'm trying to change that tire and I can't break that thing. And I want to say that I can't. My memory on it is spotty. on it, but it seemed to me that it had to do with using the impact wrench on an aluminum. I don't know if the post was aluminum or if the lug nut was aluminum or the rim was. There was something about using the impact wrench on aluminum and getting it too tight and it seizing or something. I don't remember all of that, but I do remember that it was a big deal. And they never did. And the next times I took the car in to have the tires rotated, I said, "Don't you use that impact wrench." And I would be within earshot, because I'm sitting there waiting on my car, and they didn't do it. I didn't have to try to change the tire on it again, but I knew at that point I didn't have to. National Lampoon's Vacation. The only thing I didn't have on that Buick Roadmaster station wagon was the luggage thing. I mean, it had the rack, but for the movie, I didn't have the thing with the luggage on top. It had the luggage rack, but I didn't use it. It had what they called a moonroof, which was just, it was dark glass so that the sun didn't get through and bake your car, but it was a permanent. It wasn't like a sunroof where you could open it up and the air would blow through. It was just a permanent. It was a little bubble of glass that was on there. Oh, that car! I love that car. Oh, the things. My very first car, and I think I've had this conversation with people before too. My very first car. Oh, let me see if I've got some windows open here. I was going to show you guys some pictures here in a minute. Let me see if I've got a picture. It's not my original picture, and I have to tell you that because it's I swiped it from a site. It's probably from one of the original promotion pieces of promotional material at a dealership. It's I don't know if it's right. I don't know how far back I have to go to get it. I don't want to spend all day going back. But I've talked about the first car I ever drove. It belonged to my dad. My dad bought it from his cousin, which was my cousin too, but it was his first cousin. Darn it, it should not be this far back. Oops. Have I locked up here? Tick, 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 tock, 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 tick, 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 tock, 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 tock. I'm going too fast for my equipment here. My windows are locking up because I'm trying to scroll too much in my poor little computer. Well, I've absolutely got to upgrade this, but I just hate to do it. It's just such a pain. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's on the cloud, but I own a lot of my software. I mean, back in the day, you bought your own CDs and you install. Oh, it must not be on here because I should have come across it by now. Back in the day, you bought your software, and it included all the upgrades until they brought the next version out, and then they stopped supporting your version. Then they decided that it all had to be in the cloud, and you had to rent it, which is what you're doing. That's all you're doing is renting it. You don't get to keep it. It's not yours. You don't have a hard copy. Oh, here it is. Oh, I found it. Let me see. Let me share this. Now remember, this is not my original picture, and I hope I don't get in trouble from someplace for sharing a picture that's not mine. Almost, I mean almost to the person. Oh, I shouldn't say person. Can you see that? I guess you can. It's almost the exact color of the one I had too. So what you're looking at, for those of you guys who don't know, is a 1971 Ford Pinto. It is the little brother to the Mustang. And of course, that little Pinto horsey right there. But this is almost the identical color, except that my dad eventually paints it blue. And it was a blue color that matched my high school colors. He didn't paint it because of my high school. He painted it because that's what color paint he had. Another different cousin, because Dad had a few cousins, asked Dad to paint a car for him, and he had paint left over, so he painted the Pinto blue. And yes, this is the model. If you rear-ended it, would explode. So the gas tank on that thing was located outside the body of the pardon me, outside the body frame. And so if you were in a wreck and it got hit just in the right spot, supposedly the gas tank would explode. I don't think that. I mean, my understanding of how all that works, gas would have caught on fire. If you were almost on empty, then the fumes would have exploded, I guess. But that's back in the day when you could have fun in a car, and it was a manual. It was a manual 5-speed. So I learned to drive a 5-speed, and once Dad let me drive that after I got my license, he never saw it again. He bought it to drive to work back during the first gasoline crisis in the 70s, because there was a couple of them. And back in the first one, he bought it. And he drove to drive to work, so he didn't have to drive his 1-ton, because they had a 1-ton truck. Carla says, we had a lime green one. We always called it the Lima Bean, and I got real slick at reattach the exhaust with a pop can. Not sure exactly what she's saying there. I got real slick at reattached the exhaust with a pop can. Silly car dragged every single time I drove out of Poker River. Ours was that must be a typo. There's a typo there, but she says ours was a stick shift too. I think most of them were. I don't think you get into an automatic transmission for a couple of years of that of the Pinto. I even had I don't think I have a picture of it anywhere. In my mind's eye, I don't remember having a picture of it, and I loved it. We didn't have it long. My first husband, when we were living in Fort Hood, Texas, we were actually living in the city of Killeen in an apartment complex. We bought a Bobcat, which people used to tease me and say it was a Pinto. And I guess it kind of was. It was a Mercury Bobcat, and it was the cutest orange and black colors. It just really was a sports package of some sort. We only had it about 3 months. He ran a red light and destroyed it. He was fine. I was furious. And we ended up with a Ford Fairmont Futura, which looked like a sporty car, but it really wasn't. It was like a burgundy color. I don't think I have a picture of it either. I drove it into the ground. I keep my vehicles. I keep them for a long, long time. Oh, reattaching her exhaust. She took her driver's test in a turquoise Pinto station wagon. That was one. That one was automatic. I don't remember. I don't think by the time, what was I driving? I was probably, let's see. I drove the Pinto even after Doug and I were married, while I lived at home and he was in basic. And then I took the Greyhound to Fort Sill, Oklahoma when he graduated. It wasn't Greyhound, but it was some local charter bus to from Killeen to Fort Hood. We stayed in the base guest housing for I think 3 weeks. Found an apartment that was walking distance to the gate, one of the gates. We should have picked the other end but we didn't know then. So he would walk, I don't know, 3 or 4 blocks to the base gate, and he could catch an on-base bus to his unit. And he did that every day for several, I want to say, a couple of months before we could get out to get a car. And we got out and took a taxi. Of course, we had to take a taxi anytime we went anywhere was beyond walking distance. Took a taxi over to one of the dealers, test drove the Bobcat, bought the Bobcat, paid a heck of a lot down. A lot. I mean, we didn't finance, but, a couple grand of that car. And he trashed it, and then we didn't, because it was his fault. We had no money saved back to buy another one. Had to get the money from my parents for a down payment on the Fairmont. And drove it until we come back home in 86. Then we got a Dodge Omni, which was like a Chevette. It was the same size and everything. Had the Chevette. Then we had the Fairmont and the Chevette. And then the Chevette he wrecked the Chevette. Almost killed him. Then I got an old Cadillac DeVille. It was like 6 years old or something. And then the muffler fell off. By that time I was divorced, and the muffler fell off. And I got the Roadmaster. And I traded the Roadmaster in. Ended up getting a Subaru station wagon, legacy wagon. Had the Subaru, then the Roadmaster, and the Roadmaster to my truck, and the truck to I got the truck, and then I bought the Fiat, and I had both the Fiat and the truck. Mike says, you're going way back, machine, with that Ford. How about those 70s AMC Hoopties wagons? We had a 74 Gremlins, Hornets, Javelins, Pacers, Matadors. I didn't have any of those. I had a cousin that had the it was a Toyota. What was that Toyota? It was like a single man sports car Toyota thing. I've got a picture of him. He lives down in Titusville, Florida. What was the name of that guy? Now, Mr. Holstein their family had the Gremlin. He didn't specifically, but his parents had a Gremlin. Mom and Dad had Mom had a Comet when I was little. It was red, and the smell from the fabric, the plastic inside, it made me sick every time I got in it. She had a Comet. She had, what was that blue car? Dodge Dart. One of the first Dodge Darts, I think. And what else did she have? She had a Dodge van for a while. Oh, that was a nightmare. My dad hated that thing. He ended up bypassing the starter. It had so much trouble. He ended up bypassing the starter and made it. You just had to. There was some kind of button. You just mash this button and it would start. And then they had a Ford Ranger. And then I don't remember what all they've had since then. We've all had Saturns. Oh, Saturns. I forgot the Saturns. We had Mr. Holstein and I had a couple of Saturns, a 98 and a 2000. They weren't new when we got them. We only gave $600 a piece for them in the early 2000s. One of them had a bad engine, and he could buy an engine and replace it. But I've spent almost the whole time this morning talking about vehicles. Didn't mean to do that. But walking through the park and reminiscing. But yes, so the whole point of that was just talking about you need to be able to do a few things. You need to be able to check the oil, change the air filters, you know, change a tire. The thing about changing tires though is that if those lug nuts are on tight, you know, you just almost, even sometimes guys can't do it on the side of the road. They just can't break them free. And you can get stuff to put on them, I think, to keep that from happening. Is it anti-seize you can get? I think you can get to put on those. But you know, you need to be able to do that, or have a plan for it. You know, make sure that your auto coverage includes towing or roadside assistance. Um, some of them don't. Some of them don't. Our auto insurance doesn't include glass. So, and we're constant. Oh, that's something else on my truck. It's constantly getting busted windshields. I've put like 6 windshields in that thing, and it's cracked now. It needs replaced now, and it hadn't been that long. It's like I don't know if it's the angle, and so the stress, you know, the tension that's on the glass, and so the slightest little thing will pop it and make it. But I absolutely have put in, and you know, a windshield is around $500. Well, our deductible's $1,000. I can't turn it in. They're not going to pay anything on it. And who wants to keep hitting the insurance for? I mean, I don't like paying $500 either, but who wants to keep hitting the insurance because they'll just jack it up all the time? But there's some stuff that we need to, you know, we all need to know how to do. And as the winter's coming along, make sure get your oil, get your fluids changed that you need to get changed. I know in my truck um, the antifreeze needs cleaned, but he flushed and stuff. He won't do it. He said it's not showing any signs of needing it. It's a sealed system, and I forget what else. So we have never done that. It does have something leaking in the back. I swear I thought he said differential, which is a phrase I've heard. I kind of have a general idea what it is, but I don't know. I don't drive it much anymore. I just drive it around local, so I don't know that that's a gigantic deal. Um, it's a slow leak, whatever it is. But we have to understand and know that too. You know, as the bad weather's coming now, Mike down there, I think, is getting ready for summer. Oh, my sister Mike says my sister took her driver's test with our '76 Civic, Honda Civic. Yeah, I tested with the Ford E350 supercargo van. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, a giant car. Wow. Wow. Huge cargo side mirrors, no rear view, 400 engine, 22-gallon main, and 17-gallon tank reserve. Jeez Louise, man. Well, why? You should have went and got that little Civic. Take that test in that little Civic. Everybody complains about that. I didn't have it. The learner's test, I missed by one. The driver's test, I did fine. But see, when I had my driver's test, there was the state police would do it. You'd go to the state police in South Charleston, and they had just a little course set up there off the road. They had a couple of cross areas, so that if you blew your stop sign, you failed. But this one was a straight through, and you went. How did you go? You pulled out, you went down, and you come to the first stop. You turned right, and then you pulled over here and you parallel parked, and then you come over here and you backed in, and then you come over here, and I forget what it was. Yield maybe. They wanted to see you look, and then you come back around and you didn't have the stop sign there, and then you come back out to the parking lot. So if you missed that very first stop sign, you blew it straight off the bat. But it was a Datsun. It was a Datsun my cousin had, Mike. I don't know if it was a 240Z, but it was a Datsun, come to think of it. It was a yellow car. And he was a single guy. He was all about the single life. But yeah, so I mean, everybody wanted something small because they didn't want to parallel park some gigantic piece of equipment. Now, I tell you what I did. What was harder for me was my motorcycle endorsement. When I took the course and you did a test at the end, and if you passed that test, then you got your endorsement because that was part of your motorcycle license, and you didn't have to go down to the DMV and take the test again. And I almost blew that. I fishtailed a little bit when I had to stop real hard, but I didn't. It was the only error that I had made, so it didn't cause me to fail. I think he could have 2 mistakes, and you could still pass your motorcycle endorsement. And I fishtailed right there at the end, and I could see their expression. They thought I was going to drop that bike. They thought I was a goner, but no, I did fine. I did fine with that. And then I don't ride I haven't ridden in a long time. The bikes have been put away. He gets them out every now and again, starts them up, moves them around, but I don't have time. It's crazy. I don't have time. Carla says, all our cars growing up were Bondo budgies. They should be showcased in a museum as examples of Appalachian ingenuity. The Pinto had a lot of Bondo on it. Daddy put a lot of Bondo on it. Our driver's test was in Winfield. We could have gone down to Winfield. Some people went out to Golly Bridge and took their test. They said it was easier to pass. They were more lenient. It didn't matter. I took a driver's ed class, private class. Mom sent me to. I was lucky in that way, Mom, Dad. If it was an option, they would pay for it. So would it come time to go to learn to drive? It was, and I think at that point, I think that class gave them insurance credits too. You got a break on your insurance if you went to this course. Capital Driving School. You had a lot of in classroom stuff, and you had a lot of hands-on driving and stuff. So it was good. It was good to go to. I paid for my first daughter-in-law to go to that school to get her driver's license, because I told her, I said, in life, and I mean, it sounds terrible, and I love my son, but I know life is hard and sometimes things happen. And I told her, I said, you need to be able to drive. I mean, she was 19 years old, almost 20 at the time, I think, and she didn't drive. And she said, well, he can take me wherever I need to go. To see, her mother didn't drive either. And I said, no, honey, you don't understand. If he falls and breaks his leg and you have to take him to the doctor, you can't drive. If he's gone, if he's in the service and he's gone, you need to be able to drive yourself. You can't function in this world, today's world. Well, then she got her license, and then they had some issues and she left. Not like right away. I mean, it was a while later, but they divorced. But I still feel like it was important for her as a woman to know how to drive. Carla says, there was one lady cop that everyone prayed not to get. She failed everyone the first time. I got a different lady. It was Army Day at school. My mom forgot my clothes, so I took my test in Dad's. And Mom forgot my clothes, so I took my test in Dad's. I'm sure you mean your dad's car. Oh, and your dad's fatigues and hat. I later trained that cop as a nurse when I was a shift supervisor, charge nurse. Oh, okay. Yeah. Always good. Always good. But yeah, I think it's important for women to be able to do a lot of stuff. I mean, there's some things that we just can't. We don't have the body strength for, but I think it's, oh, I never did take it off. Oh. Set that on there. I keep, I always forget to take those off. People, you guys need to remind me, hey, it's still up there. Mike says, we had driver's ed in high school, then driver's training, vehicle with brake pedal, passenger side for instructor. Yeah, Mike, they offered that too. The problem with the high school driver's ed training was you couldn't get in it. You couldn't get in it. Seniors got priority. And there was always more seniors wanting to take the driver's class than there was available hours in the day and in the week for the driver's ed instructor. So But yeah, we need to start thinking about the things that can go wrong in the winter, as we drive around and we're doing things. And one of the big things is to have some sand in your vehicle so that if you get hung up in the snow, if you're in an area with a lot of snow, or some kitty litter, preferably not used kitty litter. I don't know. They make a very lightweight kitty litter nowadays. I wonder if that would be as good, because then you wouldn't have that much weight in the back. Because for me, in the Fiat, it's going to make a lot of difference whether I have a big bag of play sand or contractor sand, whichever, or a jug of kitty litter. If I filled an empty jug of kitty litter with sand and put it next to a jug of the lightweight kitty litter, it's going to be really different. The weight's going to be really different. That'll cause me to use more gasoline. So, well, we really haven't gotten on to. We've spent this whole day today talking about automobiles. Carla says she wasn't allowed to drive until she could check fluids, change a tire, and jump start. I've not had to. I haven't actually had to jump start a vehicle. The few times that I was in a position where I either needed jump start or was going to help someone jump start, some guy would always come up and say, "Here, I'll do that." I'm like, okay. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but it's like, if that battery goes, let it go on you, because it can be dangerous. Those batteries can maybe not as bad as what I think, but you used to hear stories about the batteries could blow if you weren't careful. And people get all tore up. Oh, which thing goes on what? Well, you just match the colors nowadays. Most everything's color coded. But if you have good insurance, you don't have to jump your own battery anyway. Oh, one of the other things I was going to talk about is so many other things. Is good help is hard to find. I'm at the point. So we've got the roof on the doghouse, and I shared that with you guys Tuesday. It's done. It seems to be a good job. I spent some time yesterday afternoon out in the yard cleaning up our things, getting some things sorted around, because I want to offer a little bit of the yard as a quick camp for a little while and see if that takes on. And kind of like I have the Airbnb here, that would be just for 1 to 2 nights, not because we're not a campground, but it'd just be 1 or 2 nights for folks to tent camp who may be passing through. There is the Self-Reliance Festival's coming up, and I thought, there's a group that I've offered the days before and after Self-Reliance Festival to camp if they're coming down my way to go out to the Self-Reliance Festival. But so I needed to get that tidied up a little bit. But the long run, I have to get that building cleaned out. And so the guy who cuts our grass, he does a great job. But I asked him, I said, grass cutting season's coming to an end. Would you like to help me clean this building out? And if I'll pay you for it, and that way you'll still have some money coming in, because he's concerned about paying his taxes. I don't want to get into too much of it. His father passed away almost a year ago to the day. His father had paid the first half of the year's taxes, and of course he passes away before he pays the second half. And they're going through the estate. They don't catch that that the second half weren't paid, and now they're in a spot. And there's some grumbling going on back and forth between his brother, who hurried up and did everything he could to shut down the probate fast, and now it's looking back, it's caused a problem. So there's these back taxes, and there's an issue, and I don't want to get into all that. But anyway, so he's worried about paying the taxes, and I said, I'll pay you to help me. And all he does is just grumble. Well, I'm up there in age. He's 4 years older than me. Well, my shoulder, I can't lift. I'm not asking you to take out appliances. You're not going to have to move a refrigerator. You're not going to have to pull a stove out. Well, I can't use my vehicle because it's on its last legs. I was never asking you to use your vehicle. Never asked you. I have a truck. I'll haul stuff out in my, if you want to use my truck, you can use my truck, or I'll haul it. Oh, I don't ever drive anybody else's vehicle. There's liabilities there. No. If I'm not on the insurance, I'm not driving it. Okay, it's fine to say no. You can just say no. It's okay. Well, my knees are bad too, and now if Wayne was here, I'd do it. It'd be no problem because he'd be here, but I can't. And at this point, I used the person's name, and I said, "Look, just you don't want to do it. It's fine to say no. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I wasn't expecting you to do it all. I was going to be there. You were supposed to be helping me, but that's okay. You don't have to. It's all right." Point being, good help is hard to find. And I was going to pay him. I was going to pay him, and I mean, I was going to pay him more than just like $5 an hour. I was going to pay him a fair rate, and he got the idea of him doing it alone because when I initially asked him in a message, I said, I need someone I can trust that if I have to leave and take Dad somewhere, they're not going to rob me blind or quit on me or whatever. I need somebody who can be flexible so that if Dad's not well, then either you can do it or not. If we decide not to do it because Dad's not well, or if I have to spend all day at the doctor's office or something, I just need somebody I can trust. I could trust this person, but I use the phrase in the Telegram group chat. I don't have time for whiners, because that's what I was getting. I was getting whining. Well, I can't because I can't. Just say no. It's okay. No is a perfectly acceptable word, especially on a yes/no question. But it's hard to find. I could put a sign out, or I could put a post up in the Facebook, and I'm going to get all kinds of drug addicts and thieves respond to it. And whether they show up or not, who knows? You probably don't remember. I don't know that I had the. Well, I've talked several different times about trying to get somebody to help me here at the house, like housekeeping. I think before I started the broadcast, I know it was. I was looking for somebody at that point too to help. I had a woman working for me for about 6 months, and then she moved down south to be closer to her children, and I can't blame her for that. She worked out just fine. She could get in. It was no big deal. I could trust her to do the job, but I posted a regular job posting on Facebook through the Holstein House page that I was looking for a housekeeper, and that I would be paying, but that I wanted to report it. Didn't want to pay under the table, and they needed to be prepared to subject to a background check. I had 3 different times had people say, I'll be there on whatever day at 10 o'clock to talk to you about it. Never showed up. What's the point of saying, oh, I'll be there if you know you're not going to be there? But it's tough. I mean, I don't have the type of, I don't have extended family enough that could come and help, even paying them. And I don't like to take advantage of people, so I do pay people for helping when it's necessary, or trade or whatever. But I don't have the extended network that can come and help me with that. And it's very frustrating. And there's a lot of older people here in town. And then a lot of folks my age, which like this, the guy who I was talking about just now, that's just groan and moan and complain. He's a very negative energy person. He sucks all the positive energy out of you, but he does excellent work on the grass, and I can count on him being there. So that I don't I don't have to worry about it. I know when he says, I'll be there Wednesday at 10 o'clock, it won't be Wednesday at 2 o'clock. It'll be Wednesday at 10, or he will message me, there's a rainstorm coming through. I'm going to have to wait. It's fine. But I do. I have a lot of stuff, a lot of things. I think the British say shift, a lot of things to shift and get out of there. And there's just not enough hours in a day, and there's not enough of me. So Mike says to Carla, we had a drill instructor at the DMV too. My buddy eked by with her. Next in line, she failed me by 3 points. Okay, I guess you needed 70 to pass. And she failed Mike by 3 points. He got a 67. Then 2 weeks later, I passed with just a few dingleberries with a 92. Oh, well, I guess, okay, so 70 was the fail mark. And Carla says, I'm a bit surprised I even learned to drive. My dad was a drill instructor at one point. Shift. I must make use of the term. Yeah. I see. We love a lot of the British comedies and stuff, and they're always talking about shifting this. And if you were watching Downton Abbey, there were several times they said they couldn't shift something. And in the movie, the first movie, when they announced that the King and Queen were coming to visit Downton Abbey, Mary is caught off and saying there's a mark on the carpet I think she says there's a mark on the carpet in the blue room. We cannot shift. So shift getting the mark out. So yeah. Shift and bend and all kind of stuff. I love watching those shows. I really do. My dad says he doesn't understand them. There's some of them that they go over my head too, but there's some of them if you watch them and repeat and you think about what's going on over there at the time, you catch it. And some of it's just, cultural because there's stuff going on, we'll say political over there that they know about that we don't have a clue. So see, now I've got to rewatch. I'm always watching them. My Amazon Prime only has like 3 shows on it. Let's see. Waiting for God, which is one of the British comedies on BritBox. Downton Abbey. Friends, I got all the seasons of Friends. Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch. A couple of Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. I thought he was making a third one, and I haven't seen it come out yet. I'm anxious to see that. The Marvel movies. I'm bored with those. I haven't watched those in forever. There's a British comedy called My Family, which I like the early years, but the latter years are just. What's a couple other ones that we watch? That's almost all I have on my Amazon Prime that I watch, and a lot of times, I'm dozing off to them. Mike says, Robin, we're on our own too. If I'm not around, it's just my wife, herself, and her. Hey, that's a lot. Me, myself, and I, we get a lot done. There's a lot we don't get done too. That's why I told her I was only going to get her a new car because I don't wrench no mo. I get it. We're coming up on, I'm doing brain calculations, Mike, on how long do the average cars last in today's world, and how old am I, and where am I going to be in 25 years? So at 58, I'll be, kind of up there in 25 years. Be close. I'll be my dad's age. I don't want a house payment. I don't want a car payment, but I also don't want property to take care of. So I'm doing those mental exercises now. I'm not like calling up the attorneys to do the paperwork on the property, but we frequently talk, not in long conversations, but we frequently will say to each other, are we going to Florida? Because Florida has the hurricanes. Are we going to Georgia, are we staying here? I kind of want to stay here, but unless things improve a lot, I know how the nursing homes around here are, and the senior living facilities around here. I don't want no part of the ones around here. I really don't. I will fight tooth and nail to keep Dad out of them. And he will too, but I mean, I'll fight tooth and nail to keep him out of them because just I don't want any part of him. But yeah, I'm thinking. But then what I'm looking at, Mike, and you may be as well. Or if I buy, let's say, okay, so I think it's darn it, I almost had it in my brain. One of the little economy Japanese car manufacturers, not Toyota. What is the one? I can see it in my mind's eye. Everybody's got them. Anyway, they get like these 100,000 mile, 10-year, 100,000 mile warranties on most of the vehicles. If we're being forced to electric cars, then what? Number one, I can't afford an $80,000 electric car. I don't want one of those wee tiny little $30,000 electric cars. Kia, I think it is it. I think it is Kia. Carla said Kia. I don't want one of those electric cars. And Mike says they have all kinds of British humor on those streaming sites. I don't watch any videos except YouTube, Odyssey, BitChute. I'm not familiar with BitChute in the Prepper Farmstead communities. I play a lot of those, Mike. As a matter of fact, before I was getting things set up here, this is my Kindle. It's one of the older Kindles and my little headphone. I'll stream YouTube's through Kindle and have that on and have that Kindle sitting somewhere that the signal reaches fine while I'm doing all the other things so that I'm not sitting there staring at it. And treat it kind of like a podcast for those who don't have, those YouTubers that don't have podcasts. But my brain needs a break, and I need brain candy, if you want to call it that. There's a lot of the shows I just can't. They're just too stupid, and I just can't. I am so tired of, feminism went from treat us equally to all men are idiots, and I don't jive with all men are idiots. My husband's not an idiot. He's a very smart man. There are areas that he's not as smart, and I shouldn't say smart, as knowledgeable in some areas as I am, and there's a lot of areas I'm not as knowledgeable as he is. But he's not stupid, and even if he does something dumb, it doesn't mean he's stupid. And I just don't like those kind of shows. A lot of the broadcast network shows I don't watch, but he finds a lot of old shows on YouTube. What was some of the old? Bela Lugosi did a almost like chiller show where they're horror films back in the probably 50s. I can't remember the name. And it may actually have been Chiller for all I know, but he'll run across some of those really old black and white. And I just, oh my gosh, it's not my thing either. I'm really funny and moody about a lot of stuff, like with television and music and food. I'm very moody about all kinds of stuff. So it's hard for me. I like the Amazon Prime streaming. We got rid of our DirecTV. We use Sling TV now. It's very, very affordable. You don't get the local channels, and we have to use an antenna. But we have a fairly strong attic antenna that picks up all of the local channels that we need, plus some, because there's these weird things that they broadcast now. I guess they're coming from the local stations, but they're just weird television shows. What's that one he watches a lot of now? He watches H and I, like the ampersand H and I, and he it has the Star Trek and it has all the westerns and stuff, and I can't stand westerns. And the original Star Trek is okay, but oh gosh. But he likes to watch the certain game shows, old people's game shows. Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy every weeknight. And I do watch them with him, but I'm like, is there nothing else on, you know? I just never did like them very well. I'm just weird that way. And books, I'm not a big fan of fiction. I have some fiction in my library, but I'm a nonfiction person. I really am a nonfiction person. Mike says Hyundai and Kia, Korean Toyota. Oh, Hyundai and Kia are Korean. Toyota, Honda, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Suzuki are Japanese. These are the popular models here, but most of them are built in Malaysia and Thailand now. I wonder if the Hyundai and Kia are the we get here are Taiwanese built too, and Malaysian. I still would rather. I know it sounds terrible, but I still would rather buy a vehicle that if we could get it made in the United States. I mean, I get it. We're importing 8 gazillion percentage of the parts from Japan anyway, but I don't see a problem with wanting the majority of the things that you buy made in and around you. Now, I get, we get into our conversations every now and again. The United States is almost like a bunch of little countries, kind of like Europe. We're a bunch of little countries, our states, but because we're such a huge landmass. Okay. So like if you're over in Europe, I get that you're going to probably buy a German car or an Italian car if you live in France or Spain. I get it. But I would still, that's still kind of like the same landmass, right? So you're still, I know governmentally they're different countries, but it's still the same landmass. I just think it's so dumb to be importing so much stuff from over across the oceans on either side, and not have, that stuff made here. But they just announced that the UMW, United Auto Workers, UAW, busted out in strike last night. We used to survive strikes all the time. The problem is that and of course my dad was a UMW coal miner, so we had periods where you'd be on strike for almost a year. But they're striking. We haven't really recovered fully from the Rona backlog and Pete Buttigieg's magnificent handling of all of those ships that were sitting out in the oceans waiting that couldn't dock, and all the supply chain failures and transportation just disaster related to that. We haven't gotten over that yet, and now we've got. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong for striking. That's not a comment on that. It's just a general comment on the economy that we haven't recovered fully from all that other stuff. And part of the reason is because we import so much of that stuff that you have to get it from there to here. And okay, let's talk about how wonderful electric cars are. If we're not manufacturing them here in the United States, how much fuel is being spent and how much pollution is being created? Hauling them across the ocean, and the ones that don't make it. Every now and again, ships go down and there's cars at the bottom of the ocean, and the trash and the nastiness. One of the things that will frost me is that we hear a lot about all these plastics in the ocean. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not my plastic. I'm not saying we shouldn't clean it up. Don't get me wrong. Not my plastic. My plastics are not even coming near the ocean. My plastics are all out in the canal landfill. They're not going on a ship anywhere. But they forget, we've got people screaming now about the pollution in the Pacific. Mike, I don't know if any of that has affected you guys down there, but when that tsunami hit Japan and just washed all of that crap out into the ocean, and it gets in those underwater currents, and yeah, it may be slow, but it gets out there and it gets around. I mean, that's Mother Nature did that, but those are human-made things, but that's not because, I'm using a plastic straw from McDonald's. We all of this stuff, I don't know, I could just be out there for days talking about this stuff. Mike says the U.S. imports are usually built in country or imported directly, built in Korea and Japan, better quality, but U.S. labor costs and retail prices are higher than in the Asian market. Yeah. I just didn't know because I'm seeing more and more with the post-Rona, and it may be more of a supply chain precaution. Post-Rona, I'm seeing more and more of the clothes and stuff like at Walmart being made in India and Malaysia and Taiwan, as opposed to China, where we used to get so much of that stuff out of China. I'm seeing not so much. It's not that it's a huge change, but I'm not seeing it. The clothing that I'm seeing are Indonesia, are not made in China. Vietnam, Indonesia, India. I think that's all I can come up with at the top of my head. But I don't know about better quality built in the United States. Not anymore. Not for a long time. I think we like to talk a big game, but I don't know that that's actually true. We need to look at that. We need to, because I am not opposed to decent wages. I am. People need to be paid decent wages, but there becomes a point where you can only the wage collapses under its own weight. I'm just going to guess at rates here for a minute. If someone's making $50 an hour to do the same repetitive motion, like weld, what are we welding? Welding these hinges for the door. So the machine holds the door, the car's coming down the conveyor, and my full job all day long is to weld the hinges on the doors so that the doors on the, so $50 an hour, and that's all I'm doing. Well, now you got to know a little bit about welding, where you used to. Today, a lot of it's so computerized. All you got to do is point and shoot, kind of. But you're doing that same repetitive motion every day, all the time. And so the example is you're getting paid $50 an hour to do that. And you want a $5 an hour pay raise. What's that job really worth out in the world, out in the wild? At some point, you're going to get to where it's just stupidly insane to pay what somebody thinks they ought to be paid for a job. A better example, actually, of the insanity and imbalance in pay is not long ago, there were it was like $700 sign-on bonus to work in fast food. And they're pushing for $15 an hour fast food wages. And yet, in this same county, our 911 call center people, our fire department professionals aren't paid that kind of money. And yet we're wanting to pay, we have people out protesting to pay people who literally turn over hamburgers on a grill. We want to pay them $20, $15 to $20 an hour. Things are out of balance, and we've got to, I don't know how we do it, but we have to bring things back in balance to where the people who save your lives are paid a better wage than people who put a hamburger together. When I worked at, and I admit it's close to 40 years ago, when I worked at McDonald's, when my son was still being spoon-fed baby food, the all you did was point and shoot. The mayonnaise dispenser, it looked like a little grease gun, and it had a little design on the end of it, and you just squeezed the handle, and it put the right amount of mayonnaise. And so every one of them got the same amount of mayonnaise and ketchup and mustard. And you put 2 pickles on the little ones and 4 pickles on the big ones, and you put them together. And there is no skill to that. You're not mixing the mayonnaise every day. You're not a chef at a 4-star restaurant. I mean, things are so out of whack. I sympathize with people when they say, look, these corporations are profiting millions of dollars. They're supposed to, because people's retirements are invested in these places. Well, the president of, I'm just going to say Ford, I don't know. The president of Ford is making, $100 million a year. The president of Ford has a lot of responsibility. Is it $100? Is it worth $100 a year? Not to me, but apparently to their shareholders, because they have meetings and they have votes on this stuff. It's not on me to tell the president of Ford you make too much money. Now, if the president of Ford had a crisis of conscience and decided, the corporate president of this corporation should never make more than $100,000. Make it so. Make it so, number one. Do it. Change the job description and the salary. I mean, I get it. It is insane money. But if you want to change that, buy the stock, get in the meetings, and change it. Who was it not too long ago? Some organization got, I'll say infiltrated, because now I don't remember, by some all politically correct types. And they they voted and overturned and changed the corporation. They got in, they did it from the inside out. It's dumb, but yeah. Mike says, Bangladesh and China are the winner chicken and pork skin dinner for mass market apparel manufacturing. And he also says nobody over here, the Philippines, would ever dream of $15 an hour to flip Baconators and quarter pounders. I'd pay $15 for a quarter pounder. I love quarter pounders with cheese. I do. And I love a Whopper, the Burger King Whopper. But I usually, if I get it, and I don't very often, I very seldom, I get Whopper Jr. Whopper Jr. with cheese. There's just, and it has to do with the condiments, is exactly what it is. It's, I don't know I don't know what brand of condiments that Burger King uses, but their combination is it's just the right combination for that sandwich. Plus, it's grilled. Mike says, at 15, I was fortunate to stock shelves for $3 an hour at Long's drugstore, now CVS, while my classmates slaved 10 jobs, man, at McDiabetes and Murder King. Don't be going all Bob Marley on me there, Filipino man. Of course, it's late over there. It's I'm gonna tell you what I did. Oh my gosh, it's 11:30 here. I've gone over by half an hour today. I'd never do that. Well, I have on occasion, but I don't. I did put on my phone. I don't know that you can see the world clock. I did put Manila. I put Manila in my world clock, so I know it's 11:25 over there. You should be in bed. Yeah, my first job was 3 something an hour, I think. And the first job I had that actually cut me a check that wasn't babysitting, I was a receptionist at an H&R Block, which is a tax tax preparation place, and it was at the mouth of Witcher Creek, which is a mile from here. I left that job because they told me I couldn't take off to go on my senior trip, and I said, I'm going, see ya, because at 17, that's what you do. But I also worked, I did go to work for Wendy's International. My cousin was actually the manager, and he got me on. I worked there for several months, and I just kind of got tired of the drive, and it was interfering with school and stuff, so I left. I don't remember how much. I was probably making the same 3 something an hour over there because it was about the same time. I thought I really was big time. I was separated, not quite divorced from my first husband. And I worked for it wasn't Manpower staffing, but it was very similar to Manpower, but it was a local company doing some research, political research at the courthouse with a few other ladies. We were making $5 an hour to do that. And I really thought I was big stuff. I really did. That's when I really knew I could work something besides fast food. And that got me started wanting to take courses at an adult education center in Charleston, and I took 3 computer classes. I took Windows, which of course is the operating system, but I kind of didn't really get that part at the time. I took Microsoft Word, and I took Microsoft Excel, and it was like Excel 2 or something. It was way back. And the guy at the desk when I signed up, can you handle all of these classes? And it really upset me, because he was questioning I was a grown woman at that point, and I'm like thinking, why are you questioning this? Are you sure you can handle these 3 classes? Why wouldn't I be able to? I went to high school and took 7, But anyway, I did take them. I did well. I got my certificate somewhere still. And I ended up on the road to working in the office as an administrative assistant, secretary, and legislative specialist, and on and on and on. Yeah, my H&R Block's still a thing, but they're not where they used to be. They were absent from my general area for a long time, and now there's another one. Mike says, I love the new and improved Baconators here. They're huge, double patties smothered in cheese. When Wendy's arrived in the Philippines 20 years ago, I said, where's the beef? Yeah, where's the beef? I wasn't working for Wendy's when that was the all-time greatest commercial. Where's the beef? But I remember it because I had worked there. And the Budweiser frogs, there's just certain. I'm sorry, Budweiser, you shot yourself in the foot here a few months ago. I was never a beer drinker anyway, but I love the Budweiser frog commercials. Whoever come up with that was a genius. So they just were great. But yeah, we could do a whole thing on commercials. You can find a lot of those on the YouTube now. But I think I know there's a little delay, so I'm going to take that into account, and I'm going to start winding down. So it is Friday, and I've had fun. I'm glad that Carla and Mike were able to chime in. I'm sorry there was nobody hollering at me over on the Rumble. For those of you who wonder, I sometimes say the Facebook because Betty White, the late great Betty White, used to say the Facebook, and I thought that was just too cool. Mike says, American fast food chain meals here are very small. Well, there's not much land down there. You are an island. You're on an island. I'm gonna have to get down there one of these times. I have to get my passport renewed to do that, and I have to have somebody watch the chickens. But I'd like to do a little bit of traveling before my days are confined to a waiting for God style. That's why I like that old British comedy show, Waiting for God. I think it ended in the early 80s. And there was like 5 seasons was about all it was. And it's set in it's not a nursing home because you're not allowed to be sick to be there. It's a retirement village. And Mr. Holstein has on occasion commented that he'd like to retire to a retirement village. And yeah, I get it. And some of the ideas would be great. Aloha, mahalo, Carla and Robin, and everyone else out there in the interweb land. You have a good night, Mike, the Philippine Nomad, and I will see you again online somewhere, I'm sure. Get some rest. We will do this again on Tuesday. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And it'll be a little more structured, I think. Fridays is kind of just, laid back. But maybe I'll have an update. I was going to talk a little bit about the trailer that I was working on. Maybe I'll have a good update. I did post a little bit of just a short, a 4 or 5 minute video on the YouTube. And I think it goes up. It's either already went up or it goes up tomorrow. On that, and I'm just gonna try to make it a cute little project if I can. And but yeah, Mike says my sister out in Bakersfield will visit us as soon as she renews her blue passport. Yes, mine expired during the Rona, and we never actually. Well, I used mine in high school, but Mr. Holstein, we both went, and of course I renewed mine, and he got his, and we just never took him anywhere. We had some plans, and plans. We decided to do other things. So, but I am going to go. I'm going to say goodbye now at this point, and I am going to not read anymore. So if I miss it, Mike, I'm sorry. I'm going to roll this over here and get ready to hit the outro music. Give myself a couple more seconds for everybody to hear me and know that that's what I'm about to do. And I do appreciate you being here today with us. And if you have watched this on the replay, please comment. Say, I saw this on the replay and I liked it. I didn't like it. I would like to discuss. When are you doing this? Ask a question, make a comment. It'll be great. It'll be great. And we will check in later. And you guys have a great weekend. And with that, I'm going to call it. Take care, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. So there you have it. Post your comments, do all that boosting, liking, sharing, thumbs up, and stuff that helps spread the word and poke the algorithms. Follow me on most of the big social media platforms and look for my name, Robin Holstein, or Holstein House. Till next time, bye-bye.